Hey folks, welcome back to another episode of ASI Outdoors. Yeah, we're just going to do a little bit of walking, a little bit of talking, and tell you guys why I think hunting changed my life. So, some people may not know that I never actually really grew up hunting. Kind of would do a little bit of hunting here and there with like family, friends, uncles, just like grouse hunting, other stuff like that. Nothing like big game really, or ended up having a friend. I was like in my early 20s. His name is Nolan, the same guy that you see in my other videos, like the ones on Vancouver Island. He introduced me to hunting, introduced me to firearms, honestly, pretty much introduced me to everything. Kind of took the ball and ran with it. Owe it all to him for having me actually have this channel to begin with. Even probably being a gunsmith. Kind of skipped a generation for me. Originally, my grandfather, when he came here from the Netherlands, he was really big into duck hunting, and uh, that was really his passion. When he first came here for the first few years, he spent a lot of time in the outdoors, bear hunting, deer hunting. Like most people, the old Lee Enfield was his go-to. Pretty interesting that I guess for whatever reason, in my dad's generation, he never felt the need to pick it up, or maybe he didn't have positive experiences with firearms or something, so never felt the need. Was too busy working hard. Talk about the societal changes here. Why, when you take places like this away from people to go experience even just a little bit of step away from the city, get out, the outdoors, it's actually a negative effect to young men. This kind of stuff here is actually what saves people from having negative life experiences. You want to talk about a view? So, we're going to talk about the disconnection these days with men, specifically young men, and the outdoors. And by finding a place like this, find a lot of solitude, solace in your life, meaning. There's a generation of young men growing up without guidance, sense of belonging, or even personal identity. The world has unfortunately changed faster than we can adapt in a lot of ways. Community has dissolved and brotherhood has disappeared. The places where young men found purpose and strength vanished, and nothing really replaced them. As Scott Gallaway said, young men are not failing, we are failing young men. When a society changes faster than men can form stable bonds, something breaks. This is not about politics, this is about psychology. Dunbar's number tells us humans can only maintain about 150 real social connections. When communities grow or shift too quickly, belonging fractures, men lose their place in the tribe. They become isolated. Social atomization happens when everyone ends up alone. No shared identity, no shared purpose, no shared path to adulthood. And we're going to get into my story now. So, what is my story? So, recently I watched the film Black Phone 2 in the theaters, of course. My opinion wasn't good as the first one, but something that stuck out to me that was said is when a young man has seen too much or done too much at a young age, it affects them, numbs them. I'll put the clip in. Where I was going with that is there are a lot of people out there that have maybe seen too much, done too much, and they might be feeling like they're a little bit numb, they're a little bit lost. The kind of violence that I experienced, it rewired my nervous system. After that, the world felt loud, fast, unpredictable, unsafe, and my body stayed ready for danger long after the danger was gone. My mind didn't know how to stand down, and that's unfortunately what PTSD feels like. Not fear, it's more readiness. You're always braced, you're always scanning, always waiting. The brain doesn't allow itself to shut off because after that kind of experience, like, kind of see the veil is lifted and you're able to see that really anybody is capable of extreme levels of violence. Oftentimes, when police are minutes away, seconds count, so you kind of end up feeling like a sitting duck. So that's another reason why I found hunting to be something that was rewarding to me, because I ended up basically not being the victim anymore. I was in control of my own destiny. You have more of a respect for life. The kind of, like, when you're eating something or you go to the grocery store, your meat just doesn't come in a cellophane pack. Like, something had to die for you in order for you to live. So there's always that trade-off in life. I had a friend, Nolan, who one morning in my 20s took me out to the dike, similar to here, and took me out to go hunting for one of the first times. His family had taken me a couple other times before for, they used to do like a Christmas Eve or Christmas hunt, but I hadn't been hunting for many years. My friend Olin kind of opened that world back up for me, took me out here, experienced the beauty, was able to see the sunrise in the morning come over the hills behind me, and there's quite honestly not a whole lot else much better than that. So I'll put some pictures in of what my experiences was like in my young days there as a young man. And this is where I took my first shotgun, first duck, broke my first shotgun here, used the thing so much I wore the thing out. So go to show you how much I enjoy being out here, and how much I have to owe Nolan for being such a great guy to take somebody like myself that's a novice, show him an excellent spot, introduce him to what is important, the ethics, and get my feet wet. So I really appreciate that. For the first time in a long time, I was able to feel at peace. I was able to feel centered, didn't have that nervous energy, was focused on something else. What was a good way to put some angst and adrenaline into ethics, learning about the outdoors, skill of learning how to feed yourself. I felt still and I felt safe being out here, and really this is my happy place, even while in Alberta. Still the same thing. Pretty hilarious, but yeah, good stuff. As you can hear, there's other people enjoying the dike besides myself right now, but that's what it's all about. Having a 12 gauge in my hand brought me more stability in life, grounded me. Any stupid thoughts that I had of, oh, like, you're at a bar or whatever, I want to punch this person in the face, you thought about that in the back of your head of, if I do that, I may not be able to come out here anymore. I gotta think logically, I gotta think calmly, and ultimately, it's like people who do things like jiu-jitsu, Muay Thai, other martial arts, where um, once you have that skill and you have that power, you often want to use it less than somebody who is untrained or unskilled or just wants to hurt other people. The shotgun wasn't about power, it was about control. Security, grounding, identity, something solid to hold when the world felt unstable. It wasn't aggression, it was responsibility. This is why hunting heals the mind and is good for a young man, specifically somebody who's in an urban setting, maybe is doom scrolling all the time on their phone, maybe overindulging in things like pornography, even overindulging in things like food, drugs, or alcohol. Psychology behind this: flow state. Hunting demands attention. When your mind focuses, anxiety has no room to run. So when you're quote unquote kind of in the thick of the shit, most people have been in the thick of the shit. I don't know, there's kind of undescribable feeling. For anybody who hasn't been there, it's very similar to like buck fever, um, gorilla hands, things like that. But it's also something that like once you have that feeling, you also crave it more. So it's like one of the worst feelings that you could have, but it's also one of the best feelings that you can have. I don't know. You can just feel it in the tip of your dick. That's all I can say if you've ever been there. You know what I'm talking about. It's very hard to turn that off after the fact. With hunting, you're basically putting that energy in a different place, and you're able to focus your mind on that rather than past instances. Health efficacy. Your actions matter. Your effort has results, and you become capable. Identity formation. You learn who you are by what you do, not what you say. Um, and it's also a rite of passage, kind of like becoming a man thing, similar to like a bar mitzvah, or you got a ceremony, you do your walk out in the woods and walk in the snow if you're a Trudeau. And you learn who you are by what you do, not what you say. We've removed a lot of the rites of passage from society. A lot of time masculinity is now confused with toxic masculinity, so any form of masculinity is seen as a negative thing. And especially when we have many new people in our country that we're trying to help assimilate and get them to our ways of thinking, if they not may totally align with their views on things like women, it's up to us to help kind of resolve that, be the bigger men, take people out, show them, the ways of Western society, how we act, how we should act, and that's even to other people in our own communities that are maybe not acting how they should be. Modern society has removed a lot of the moment where boys become men. That gray zone is really hurting the youth. With that rite of passage came also a confidence in a young man that he was able to succeed in the years going forward. Generational confidence is also something that really can be said with men. If, for example, maybe you didn't have the best upbringing, if there's somebody else in your life, like a cousin or an uncle or a family friend who stepped up a lot of the times, you're still going to have a better understanding of the world than maybe the people before you, and ultimately that's what it's all about, a society. And as a man, every generation that goes by, you want to be a better person, you want to leave more than what was given to you. Give back. Psychological reason would be nervous system regulation. So when you're in nature, naturally your body relaxes itself. It doesn't have the things around it like traffic, people, the kind of stuff that our bodies haven't become accustomed to over the years. And with getting in places like this, parks, forest, you reset yourself, reset your brain, and allow your body to kind of come to a zen moment. And that's really important to me as well. Ultimately, men need to feel challenged. Today, a lot of life is, going to be honest, pretty depressing. They've legislated a lot of people's jobs out of existence. They're really not caring too much about the West Coast comparatively to the East Coast. There's really a cultural difference between people in the city that are making the rules versus the people who have to actually deal with the rules once they're implemented in other communities. You have guys that have never been in a fight making legislation about self-defense. You have people who've never been hunting before making regulations about hunting. Doesn't make a ton of sense to me. I guess ultimately, kind of human nature, I guess everyone's a little bit out for themselves these days, which is kind of sad. So if we could build that sense of community back, that'd be really important. Men need other men. They need communities, positive communities. not negative communities. Like even, I guess, the explosion of Harley G, for example, with Satan's Choice. Gnarly too familiar with the whole comings and goings on the East Coast there, but it seems like he's gained a lot of traction recently. I guess why that could be, maybe in my opinion, is people are looking for an outlet, sense of brotherhood, sense of camaraderie, maybe also without the negative aspects of the criminal element. So I think you're probably going to see more of that kind of going forward, almost like with post World War II, where you see kind of more, rod and gun clubs, men's clubs, things like the Shriners, other stuff like that, that are, I think, going to become more popular as time goes on here, because I feel like there is a lot of disconnect and there's too much men spending too much time online behind a screen, and they don't really have the ability to interact with each other very well. It affects not only their relationships with men, but also their relationships with other women, and it's ultimately not ideal. When men are in the bush together, when they're in the water, living off the land, kind of getting back to those roots, they can all reset together, gives them all a level playing field. Also, kind of is a sense of therapy, because a lot of men, kind of hold stuff to themselves, and a lot of that, heard about people writing things on a rock before and taking that rock and throwing it in the water. Things like that really help, and everyone's got their own way of dealing with things. Write a note on a piece of paper, fold it up, put it in the fire. You don't always have to speak to somebody in person. The other thing is, too, if you have a friend who's going through a tough time, most definitely they ask for something like a hug, or they need, some emotional support from you, like, give it to them. Don't feel like you're lame or being gay or something for wanting to give your buddy a hug, because, sometimes we all need a hug, and unfortunately, I made that mistake of not giving my friend a hug when he probably needed one and asked for it, and he's no longer with us. So I often think of, maybe if I had done that, he would still be here. There'd be different change or whatever. So we all have to stick together and support each other when we're going through tough times, because everyone has their moments. If people haven't gone through anything yet, I can guarantee you will have something in your life that sets you back. And then I'm going to drop some quotes now from Scott Galloway. He was recently on CNN, with Anderson Cooper, and went through a bunch of stuff that I found to be pretty interesting. They said, lack of purpose is the fertilizer for anxiety and depression. And was also talking about how young men these days who are under 40 kind of haven't had the same, I guess we'll call white privilege, as other men who are older, and they're kind of paying for the sins of their forefathers in a lot of ways, and they're having to work twice as hard in order to kind of make it work in today's society, unfortunately. So unless you have generous family, or you came from some form of money and you have an inheritance to look forward to, then life for you might be a little bit more difficult than it was for the people before you. Kind of pitting people against each other, when ultimately more racism isn't going to fix solving old racism. We all just need to look together to try and see what we can do to raise each other up, instead of looking at things based on how much melanin we have. And then this is going to be my final message to young men. If you feel lost, overwhelmed, angry, or numb, come outside, learn to hunt, learn to fish, learn to sit in silence again. Bring other young men with you. Teach them. Walk beside them. We rebuild the brotherhood one sunrise at a time. This didn't just save my life, it gave me purpose. And the purpose that I now have is to help other men find that, other young men find that. So if this video helped you, I would appreciate if you could give me a like and subscribe. And I'm going to try and do more kind of positive stuff like this, switch it up, rather than just, complaining about politics all the time, or you see me going out and hunting or whatever. I'd like you to see more of the backstory and the psychology and the emotional aspect of, becoming one with the land, reconnecting with your forefathers, generational activities, and ultimately, if you are strong and you feel strong, your mind will also feel strong. And that is what is most important, I think, for young men, is that they have that sense of strength in themselves. Because a young man who is in fear is a coward, and that's the most fearful young man that I'd say is out there, is those young fellas that are 15, 16 out there looking for a sense of purpose, maybe carrying a gun around, doing stuff they probably shouldn't be. I had a lot of friends like that. Majority of them are dead, are in prison, and ultimately it's not worth it. You gotta blow off some steam, come out here, enjoy the wilderness, feed yourself, learn about life, and enjoy the great outdoors, because there's nothing like it. Take a friend fishing, take a friend hunting, get people in the outdoors. I mean, folks, is there anywhere else you'd want to be? Look at that. Absolutely gorgeous. Even if you're not so much into hunting, just coming out here, taking some photos, spending some time with family. That's what it's all about. So get out there, take a friend hunting, take a friend in the outdoors. Shoot straight, speak truth, and stay free.